It is Sunday the 9th of August, about 2:30, and I'm just having a look at commodities, making my plans for the rest of the week. So starting off on gold, as I've said before, gold is just kind of reasonably overextended on the monthly, which is fine. It has been actually since it kind of started to break through 1800, and it's now sitting at about 2000, which I think is a significantly round number. Not only that, but historically it's kind of broken all previous highs, so that's all good and healthy. The daily in isolation looks a little bit overextended. I think a pullback this week at a minimum would be a connection with 2000 to potentially find support. So there might be a swing trading opportunity, a nice little bullish candle potentially to carry on. Do I think that it's overextended on the weekly and needs to come back down towards 1800? Absolutely. Will it? No, there's no guarantee necessarily in terms of just this kind of cyclical behavior which we've had in the past. I guess what I'm saying is at some point in the future, I do expect it, but does it have to happen now? No, you know, gold could kind of just take off and then just not come back, but it doesn't look out of control at this point in time. So I think at least a minimum retracement down to 2000 this week before potentially carrying on. Do I think it's overextended? The longer term needs to come down and let off some weight. 1900, 1800, yes, I still stand by that, and I still think that's going to be the case. And so it just means caution. And certainly this week there's no bullish setups anyhow, so it just means sitting on the sidelines for that. Then having a look at silver. Silver, what's interesting to me, just loading up that monthly chart and having a look at it, it's broken through historical support and is pushing its way. It's tapped close to tapping 3000 or $30. And it's got some room to go to 35. So there's some really nice potential in the long run. Can it do it in a single move? Yes, we've kind of seen silver do this in the past. So it went, can you believe it, from $18.75 or at least to $19 all the way up to almost $50 just straight up. So it is capable of doing that. But if it's not in a rush and there's no pressure, then I don't see why we can't take a bit of a breather, come back down. And that means looking at it on the lower time frames, seeing it come down to 27, ideally on a weekly, seeing it come down to 21. That's what would make me very happy and would make it nice and healthy and sustainable. Do I think that that's likely to happen? Yeah, I do. At this point in time, there's nothing to indicate in the commodities at any rate that everything is kind of completely out of control. Having a look now at copper. Copper is starting to weaken, finding some strong resistance and starting to pull back into its moving averages, which is I think what was on my list last week. So looking for a bullish candle here to see if it's got enough strength to take another run at that key level. Then on to crude. So I'm going to start off here with US crude oil. So US crude oil's longer term trend, unlike gold, is in a downtrend. And so the probabilities for me are that it's likely to turn in this area, which was either going to be around the $40 mark or the $51 mark. Excuse me, it's still in that area, so this is a good area for it to turn around at. And if I look at it on the daily, really you can just see it hasn't been going anywhere very much. It is attempting to continue, and it's not impossible based on that monthly that it could make a run up to $50 and then take a breather, but it's struggling. There's just not enough buyers in this area at this point in time. So this week, again, for me, what I would be looking for is a break of the low of where I've marked it with a dash line, kind of about that 38 level, looking for a break lower. Alternatively, just waiting to see if it starts to pick up. So in other words, if it does start to trend higher and starts to look really good, especially on that 4-hour time frame, I'll start looking for longs. But right now, it's still wishy-washy, and if it breaks the low, then I'm starting to look for shorts. So those are my levels that give me that clear indication as to what's going on. Looking at WTI West Texas Intermediate, the only thing that I wanted to add to this, it has exactly the same overall analysis, but I wanted to add that if I measure fib levels from a couple of previous highs, there's a cluster of a 618 and a 50 fib depending on the measurement in this exact area. So where it is right now is depending on the time frame that one looks at in the swings, it's a really good area. It's also bumping its head up against fib levels. Okay, not just one, but it's bumping its head up against two, and therefore there's an increase in terms of sellers in this area, so it is struggling with that. But it'll have the same, basically it'll be the same outlook for me for all of these. Brent crude as well. Brent crude has gone from really nice, strong, big bullish candles, smaller bullish candles, smaller and smaller and smaller, and so it's indicating price action wise that the buyers have done most of their expected retracement. They knew it was overextended. It's now come back up, and it's in this area. Whether it's going to make it up to there or whether it's going to turn where it is now, anywhere in this area is valid at this point in time. And from a technical perspective, that certainly seems to be the case. Moving on to lumber. So lumber has been one of those nice, beautiful, I'm only demonstrating it here because the beauty of commodities and how well they can perform. Lumber has been quietly ticking away in the background, so there's been some good money there. Then looking at cryptos, Bitcoin here is drifting on its way up to its next key level. It is definitely struggling with some weekly resistance at the moment, and so it's consolidating. Whether there's a breakout, I'm afraid I'll only know a bit more later next week. So I need to see if we do produce a couple of higher lows, and during the week it'll likely break out if that's the case, and if it's not strong enough, it'll start to retrace and break the low. So in principle, I'm still bullish on these in the long run. I do expect them to ultimately make it back up to these levels, probably even before the end of the year, but for the moment, a nice little pullback, a test of resistance as support would be fantastic, and then to see it continue on would be really good as well. Let's have a look at Ether. So Ether's been outperforming, in my opinion, at least this year. 2020 has been outperforming Bitcoin. It's got a lot more to offer in terms of the dApps and so on. It's struggling a lot with this 400 level here on the charts, really struggling to get past that. There's a monthly level there as well, and there's some strong weekly resistance up there. So what am I looking for? Well, there's room for it to, once it gets past where it is now, 390, to carry on. That gives it quite a bit of room to move, and so I'm relatively happy with that being the case. But certainly, I don't think it's going to move without Bitcoin. So probably the two of them will take a bit of a breather. I'll watch this week. Basically, what I'm looking for is a series of high lows going into this flat level, probably around that 405, 410 mark, and then looking for a potential bullish breakout either this coming week or the week after. And if it just starts to head lower highs, low lows, that's fine. I'm not looking to short the market. I'm only looking for re-entries at key levels. So that'll be either at the 35 or 28 mark. And as I said, it's overextended on the weekly. So that's what's on my list for commodities. So basically, to recap, looking for silver and gold to take some brief retracements this week. Oil is still kind of waffling all over the place. It has very good reason to become bearish, at least based off its longer term trend, which prevailing trend is down. And then looking at cryptos, similar. So basically, initially, not looking like there's much action on the traditionals, on the crudes, the precious metals, and on some of the cryptos. But interesting enough, some of the other, such as like lumber or sugar, are looking pretty good.